Okay, well, we've spoken about some of the terms like CTL, um, um, uh, critical training load, training stress balance, acute training load, etc. What we're really looking for to plan a season is the the target critical training load we want to put on somebody that they can actually cope with, and they can tolerate without undue risk of injury. And that will effectively balancing out aerobic fitness, aerobic training and intensity training within those parameters should get us there safely, with the most bang for buck of our time. So with that, there's some published ramp rates. Again, a lot of work done by Jim Vance and Joe Friel and others across a lot of data sitting in Training Peaks and collated separately by themselves to come up with these figures. So essentially what we're saying, and I think most of my athletes on the journey would be above 70 once they're in program. If they've been off for a season or something like that, they may be less than 45. But generally we group them into those two categories, 45 or less or 70 plus, and there's grey area in between. So what we're saying is a low risk, if you've got lots of time to build up to your race CTL, you can go low risk. The maximum ramp per week you can do is 6 stress points or 9%. That's if you're above 70, or 4 CTL or 9% if you're 45 or less. You can accept moderate risk. I do that quite often when you've got a compressed time frame. The high risk are generally only reserved for athletes who've got a lot of history in training. They may be low on CTL at the moment, but they've really got years and years of aerobic training, and they can actually, because they're quite efficient and well and know their bodies pretty well, you can actually ramp them up a little bit higher. But they go up to 10%. So it's really just limiting how quickly we can ramp them up in terms of fitness. Training Peaks has and the new features have got a great little warning that if we try and get them to a CTL and there's not enough time to get through below the ramp rates, it gives us a clear marker that, hey, you might need to rethink your plan, you're too aggressive. So ramp rates are important, and really they help us control volume. So if I put a target in that I want to get to 142 CTL for my next A race, and I put in that, and it, some of the weeks turn out to be 13-14%, I might need to reconsider, cut down the CTL, therefore cut down the volume and the ramp on the way there, and look at the lower end of the scale of recommendations. I'll walk through the recommendations by discipline now. Bike target CTL. So this is the target CTL where we want it to be at race day. So these are all based on thresholds. So the bike target is based on the bike FTP. So we're assuming the bike FTP test is valid. So, the person or the athlete put a lot of effort into it, and it is an accurate representation. Then we got the different levels of athlete, whether he's just wants to finish an Ironman, age group qualifier. So I'll look at the age group qualifier and look at that and say the FTP, the CTL needs to be 20 to 30% of FTP. So for instance, if I'm 250 for say FTP, divided by 10 gives me 25 times 3. 30% would be FTP of a CTL of 75. So we take the bike CTL and we add it to the run CTL, which we'll calculate next, and then add our estimated swim CTL for a week. It gives us a total that we want to go for, and on our race day. Remember the 20 to 30% margin for qualifier. We may need to go to the lower ends of that if we haven't got enough time to ramp up. And that's really a time to find things, how much time we've got to our race day. So I'll write down the 20 to 30% for the examples coming later. Run target, we split it by the length of the run. It's interesting for the cycle, you notice they didn't have Ironman and 73 and 70.3 separation. That's because the bike for 70.3 and Ironman is very, very similar. Generally, the volumes you're going to do and the CTL and you need are the same because it's low impact. To really perform well, you need to do that sort of volume, whether you're doing Ironman or 70.3. Run's different though. Run, you need to do more for the Ironman, just the duration of that run and the impact of it means more training because it's high impact sport. So again, we'll look at here, we'll see the different levels: finisher, mid-packer, Worlds Qualifier, Elite. I'll choose the example of an Ironman Worlds Qualifier, somewhere between 2 and 5 of the Run FTP. Run FTP is basically your best kilometers per hour for an hour's run. So if you can run an hour, do 15 kilometers an hour, that's basically 4 minutes per kilometer dead. You're pretty much going to have a RFTP of 15. Okay, so if you're slightly underneath that, I'll lock myself in at a 14. Generally, I'm not going to go 5 because I've been off running for a while, so I'll go 3. So 3 times 14 will give me 42 for my run FTP. I add that to the 75 we just calculated. That'll give me 117. Then I add 20 for my swim, and that's calculated by taking the number of swim hours times 7 times the average intensity, which is 0.7 times 10 divided by the 7 for the week. So generally it's going to end up around, if you do 3 sessions of an hour a week, it's going to end up around 20. So 42 plus 75 gives me basically 137 target CTL, which I can use in Training Peaks as my target. I know, for instance, because I've been off for a while with sport, if I want to do it, get up to that level by May, I'm not going to be able to do that, but that isn't the example later. So that really gives us a gauge as to what we should be targeting to achieve our results. And Training Peaks may tell us, no, it's going to ramp up too high and you need to reel back your expectations a little bit. And if we choose to ignore those and follow the ramp race, exceed the ramp race, we just got to recognize we had high risk of injury. So we need to actually monitor the athlete or yourselves really closely and pull up on any sort of niggle, etc., because you will be pushing your body too far. Not recommended to go into this high exceptions or over that. Generally, you're going to get a better result, but having the recoveries between sessions and sticking to the guidance. There are some tables around cycle specifics. If you're not a triathlete and you do long distance cycling, we're not going to go through these. These are available in Training Peaks. You can do some searches and pick up those tables around target CTLs. Again, it does depend on the intensity you're doing, the level you're at now, and the time you've got to train. How exactly where you fit on those target CTLs, because they are pretty broad. 52 to 105 is a really broad window, as is 78 to 131. So next session, I will go through the example calculation on using Training Peaks itself. It is important though to recognize that data gathering is important for all of these. If we don't have accurate FTP, the whole model is flawed. So FTP is important. If we can't record sessions due to the heart rate failure, forgetting it at home, we must go put in manually of what we perceive our intensity to be across a session. That gives us a really good guidance and calculates our training load over each session, each week. So we can actually properly coordinate training stress session by session and get the totals right. Occasionally we get bad data, heart rate sitting at 270, etc. Those sessions should be removed and then override that with a manual intensity factor. Otherwise, it just throws out the data. Suddenly you get a ridiculous FTP or a ridiculous threshold heart rate. It throws all the figures and the training stress in the future. I do monitor those for my athletes. I expect them to monitor themselves and just tell me when they think it's flawed, so we can go clean up the bad data. That's it. Next session will be a view of the actual calculator on my website to take you through those calculations for FTP. You just punch in your figures. It'll calculate your target CTLs for you. You can then go punch them into training peaks and come out with a solid plan. See you in the next session.